Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Monday edition of Roll Call. I'm glad to see so many of you in the room today. We got a lot of stuff to talk about, so we are going to jump right into it in a second. For those of you that are watching us live, thank you very much. If you're watching us on the replay, thank you too. Thank you to the mods to help making this all possible and all the donors. I really appreciate that. Without any further ado, we're going to bring in everybody's favorite masseuse, retired NYPD Detective Michael Alcazar. Mike, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Good morning, everybody.
My lovely assistant has just made a fresh pot of coffee, so it is we're going good. We're good. We're having a good morning already. So, for those, I had asked in the pre-chat where they like to start, Mike, and everybody wants to start off with the Mica Miller case, and it's definitely shaping up to be one of those cases where you kind of have that raised eyebrow when you're looking at some of the statements made by the husband. You start looking at some of the background information. I have her Facebook page. We're going to share some documents in a second. But when you first heard the case, Mike, what was your first kind of impression from the investigative standpoint?
From the investigative standpoint, yeah, of course, we had to investigate the crime scene, cause of death, manner of death. I'm wondering if they recovered a weapon. I'm assuming they did. I'm not sure. Do you know that? I don't even know if they recovered a
Well, we
weapon.
don't know. The only thing that we have is what has been going on in public, that she was actually shot with a gun, right, a firearm.
Right. Okay.
But there's been no official announcement. And we're going to go through a couple of those official announcements in a second. And I also want to remind everybody, uh, we're not going to get into all the court documents and stuff like that because Gisela did a great job. She has like 2 or 3 hours on this already. I've linked her show into the show notes here. So at the end of this show, if you want to see and hear about all the documents and all the different Facebook posts and videos, you head on over to Grizzly True Crime and you can watch it over there. Mike and I want to talk about investigative steps, things that we hear, things that we kind of get a feeling for, and that's where we're going to concentrate on this morning. And I'm going to share our screen, Mike. I just want to go through a couple of quick things with everybody because it's important, right? So here we go. This one here from ABC 15 News, and this is a couple of things that we're going to talk right off the bat here. Major Damian McLean with the Robeson County Sheriff's Office said they were actively investigating the death of Mica Miller, right? So that's a good sign. I know the family was very upset, but the police have not said that this was definitely a suicide. It hasn't said it's a homicide, right? It hasn't used any of the manner of death kind of thing. We still don't have an official autopsy report. We haven't really heard anything. So a lot of the different things that you're hearing about, some of it's just rumor. We're not going to get into that per se. So we don't even know for sure what the exact cause of death was, like Mike had said. So it's something I think people just need to just sit back. I think the cops are really looking hard into this case. Mike, what do you think on that?
Oh yeah, sorry, Joe. Yeah, agreed. A lot still has to be released. I know, same as you guys. I watched the pastor's video. He does seem a little bit sketchy, and Gisela went over his past, and he definitely uh, he does seem a little off. Time will tell. What the investigation will reveal. I know Gisela went into his history, his background. They're going for a divorce. There's a lot of moving parts. She recently posted a video, Micah, a couple of videos. She seemed like a very nice young person that's full of life. So it is a little bit suspect that she, unalived herself. So same as you, I have my suspicions, but because we are from a law enforcement background, we're, like Joe said, we're waiting for the facts, investigation, and it could well reveal something that we suspect, but we still gotta be professional and wait to see what the police come up with.
Right. So, Mike, if we were sitting in the squad room and we were discussing this case, and I said to you, why would you apply for a divorce and then 2 days later or so kill yourself? Why would you do that? Right? I
Um,
mean, this is something we would discuss.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Did she apply for the divorce like 2 years ago, right? It's ongoing for 2
Yeah,
years.
but it was just a filed again or something for 2 days ago about some, I guess, support kind of thing.
Oh, yes, you're right. You're right. Yeah, that's definitely suspicious. Yeah, I know he
If you
likes to.
why go through all the
He,
court process and the lawyers and go to court and file this paper and then just decide 2 days later say, oh, you know what, it ain't worth it, right? To me,
yeah,
those are like kind of red flags kind of thing.
yeah,
Um,
I agree.
and here's something. Oh, the stupid thing. Sorry, the commercials. I love commercials on here. Anyway, what I wanted to show you there it is. It's not playing nice. The police, here it is, says, this is the chief speaking. He said, at this point, the investigation has not revealed any information that indicates there is a danger to the community following her death.
Hmm.
Mike, what
Hmm.
is how do you read into that?
Oh, either they determine, yeah, either they determine how she unalived herself, or they have the suspect, right? That's what I would think.
Yep, those are the only two things and for those that don't know, Mike and I don't discuss exactly what we're going to say in this thing. I just give him the topics and a couple of things, and we just run with it. So I don't know what he's going to say, well, especially at the end of the show. I definitely don't know what he's going to say. But just as far as that goes. So this is not a setup. I know people would think that's set up. No, so there's only two options with that statement. And I always tell people, when you're watching the press conference or you hear something that is quoted from a press conference from the police official specifically, look at the words that they use or don't use. So when that to me, that's always a magic phrase that people need to key in on. Is there a threat to the public? And that means there's only those two answers. One, they know who the suspect is, or two, they think it's an event where he used the term self-induced. Mike, have you ever heard that term in regards to a manner of death like this? Self-induced. That's what the
Self-induced.
husband said.
Self-induced. Yeah, that's odd, right? Maybe self-inflicted, but
Yeah.
self-induced. Maybe his vocabulary just not that good. Maybe because it was live. Uh, I don't
Well,
know. I
but
don't
even the
know.
whole timing of what he did, right? What he said and what he did. I mean, it was kind of odd. Now, his name is John Paul, right? I don't know if his parents were very religious or they were big Beatles fans, but the um, the issue that comes down to is that he does his whole sermon, and at the end, he just says, "Oh yeah, and by the way, like I got terrible news the other day, and my wife like." I think that's what a lot of people really keyed in on and said, like, what is going on here?
Yeah, a little psychopathic there, right? A little self-serving, a little bit narcissistic. Business first, and then as a side note, oh yeah, my ex-wife unalived herself, and then he follows up with, "Pray for me, pray for my family," and say, "Guess I just keep supporting us,"
Yeah. He doesn't say anything
sociopathic.
about her. He doesn't say anything
No,
about her. Right. And this is, I'm glad you brought this up, Mike, because this is something else that we try to tell people, key in on certain things, right? Distancing himself from her in that speech, like she doesn't even exist. And that's always a clue. And I knew Mike was going to pick up on that because Mike was a detective for a long time. Sinead says the husband's girlfriend's, yep. Hubble also died in strange circumstances. Yeah, Tammy and Chad vibes here. Yes, Sinead, thank you for being a member for 4 months. And I don't know what time it is in Ireland, but it's got to be, I guess it's later than that. So thanks for joining us. But yeah, like, so the girlfriend, the husband in the wheelchair who drowned. I mean, this guy, there's, yeah, a lot, like CH just said, a lot of red flags. It's starting to look like China around here, Mike.
I'll see. Just put the red flags. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I
It's
got my red. I got my red shirt on just because of that.
definitely suspicious. Yeah, he's almost like he is. He's victim blaming, right? He's talking
Yeah,
about her history, her
yeah.
suicide history. He's almost like saying, like, we expected this, or he's almost like saying, like, I was the one that tried to help her, and because now we're separate. I'm reading into it. Now that we're separated, I couldn't be there to help her, and this is what happened. So yeah, he's trying to make himself paint himself like the hero or the big support system that she no longer has.
Well, exactly, and it's just, and I think that's what really. And listen, he's not accused of anything right now. We're not accusing him of anything, but we're just discussing, I think, the reason why a lot of people are upset about this guy. Listen, there's a lot of things they're not like about him, but that doesn't mean he's guilty of something heinous. And that's the thing that you have to also be careful of and mindful of. That, you know, a lot of people are going to drag this guy through the mud, and it's already happening. But, you know, let's wait for official reports and stuff to come out, because it's a dangerous game that people play with this, and you have to just look at it. But from let's talk about this investigation, Mike. So you're the detective that gets this call to the Lumber River State Park. Now, allegedly, she has shot herself, right? It's not even official. What are some of the steps that you would take in order to secure that scene and help move this case forward?
Yeah, I'm going to establish a crime scene, of course, around the vehicle, maybe the path the vehicle drove. I don't know exactly where it ended up in the park. We're going to canvass for video and witnesses. That's going to be huge. We're going to see if any witnesses perhaps have cell phone video, or maybe have interacted with her or saw or heard anything. So what else? Ping her phone, of course. We're going to get her cell phone. We're going to ping his cell phone. We got to see if he was in the area or anybody else that was in the area, actually. So we're going to try to identify those people. Is that it? That's pretty much it, right?
Yeah, well, that's the other thing too, is like we don't know where she left from, so we don't know the exact path that she went to this park. The park is about, and I'm gonna map it out, because I found one or two little interesting things on the map, on the trail, about how she could have gone. We don't know where she left from, which is going to be an important starting point for the investigation. Now we're dealing with two different jurisdictions, which kind of muddies things up too. So then that's something else you have to think about, right? Like, why did this happen? What, did she ever go there before? I went through her Facebook page. I don't see any other pictures from this state park up in North Carolina. No mention of it, nothing like that. That doesn't mean that she's never been there before. It just means that I haven't seen anything that would say tie her to that. But the other thing is the type of vehicle she drives, right? This is a very rural area where she went through. I mean, it's just basically all forest, and I can imagine there's only three ways to get up there. So depending on which way she took, but they all lead to the same place, and they all go through this one small town called Fair Bluff. And we're going to show you guys that, because I found two places where there is video surveillance that the police should be able to get, and it might be able to tell a tale of who was in the car with her, if she was by herself, right? These are things that you have to do. Was it a meetup? Did she meet somebody up there? I mean, there's so many things that we don't know. And that's where Mike, he said, the text messages, the three things I always tell everybody: video surveillance, cell phone records, and internet records. And that will prove or disprove this case for sure.
Yeah, apparently I saw this on Gizla's video yesterday that he was the husband, the pastor, was also tracking her. I forget if he had some kind of a tracking device on her. This guy's this guy's a creep for sure. Yeah, it doesn't necessarily mean he's a murderer, but it seems to point in that direction, that there's something bad, something rotten in Denmark.
Yeah, and this is where the investigative questions start coming out. And this way, I believe I like the way the North Carolina sheriff, was talking. I like the fact he was pretty direct in this response, that they're investigating this case, and he also said that they were cooperating with authorities in South Carolina. So, to me, if they thought this was just, no, there's no way, they would have just said case closed, move on to something else. They didn't say that. The vehicle is going to be a big part of this case, Mike, because if it's a newer model within the last few years, there could be GPS, there could be the XM satellite radio. There's lots of different ways you can track that vehicle. And also, the Waze app, if you're using or Google Maps or what have you, to try to get to where you're going. It's all important, because it's going to tell us if she's ever been there before.
Yeah, they're going to go through her phone, text history, email history, her last communication. So a lot to investigate. I'm going to say it's pretty standard investigation. And if they follow the steps that we just laid out, and other things, I'm sure we'll have a quick resolution to this. So we'll see.
Yeah,
We'll see
yeah, I
also
think
the ballistics, right? If there's any kind of what kind of weapon she used, if there's any ballistics recovered, I forgot to mention that.
yeah,
Any
where'd the
DNA in
gun
the
come from?
vehicle, right? Any
Where
kind of
where
DNA in the vehicle? Yes, sir.
yeah, where'd the gun come from? Right?
Yes.
Is
Yes.
she? I don't know the rules on in North Carolina and South Carolina. However, I do know that a lot of states don't want you taking guns over state lines, even if you are licensed in that state. There could be some serious penalties if you're caught with a firearm. I don't know all the rules there, but the gun becomes suspect in a lot of ways. Maybe she got the gun for personal safety, right? That's what the scenario is going to be, because she talks about how much basically she's made statements that she's scared, and even said, I think it was I saw it in Gizla's, that she said that if I get shot in the head, it wasn't me, it was him. you know
Oh
what
God.
Yeah, so this is what she's quoted in as saying. So that's something to really take a hard, long look at. Listen, there's plenty of things here for the investigators to go through and look at. I'm going to show us the map, and I want to, and because I had nothing to do yesterday, so I went on a journey. Let me just pull it up on Google Maps, and we don't know where her starting point was, right? So when you take a look at it, you don't know where her starting point is, but I just use Myrtle Beach as the way,
Hmm.
as the start. So if you look on your left part of your screen, it says Myrtle Beach and then Lumber River State Park with the address. So that's basically it. And if you look at it, there's only 3 ways that you could go from Myrtle Beach up there, but there's only one way once you get to a certain point, right? Once you get to this section right here, that's it. There's only one way to go. Now,
Yeah.
I am going to focus in on this turn right here in a town called Fair Bluff. Let me get the screen smaller. Sorry, folks, bear with me for a second. The fingers aren't working too well this morning.
Fair Bluff.
Fair Bluff. Now, no matter which way she goes, you have to drive through this little town. So this right here, this 904, and I'm going to make the screen bigger for everybody, Mike. I'm going to drop this from the screen, so you can do what you want to do there. Okay. So Fair Bluff is a small little town here. And when I mean small, I mean it's small. But when you come off the highway, or it's called Conway Street, right here, up on the top right, you make a left on Main Street. And it brings us to the first surveillance camera, and that is on the Sunoco. And here it is. Let's go to the street view. And here's the Sunoco. Now, I found here, it looks like there are 2 cameras. There's one up in the top left here, and there's one right over the front door. Let me see if I was able to zoom in earlier. Well, anyway, take my word for it. There's one here and one here. Now, the rest of this town has nothing visible. That doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Video surveillance I'm talking about has nothing except for, of course, the police station.
Hmm.
There's a police station right here, and the courts. Let's see. Here it is, the town hall. This one's got a nice one. This is the rear of it. Let's see if we can get to this front right over here. So this is what I was doing yesterday in preparation for our show, Mike, because the video surveillance is right here in this thing. I'll show you. This is half police station, half town hall. Oh God.
So when I was in the squad, when
There it
Google
is,
Maps
right
was
there.
still, yeah, Google Maps was pretty new. We did the same thing. We wanted to map out and identify locations that potentially have video surveillance. So what you're doing is exactly what we did, and then we hit the streets.
Right. You
There
see
you
the
go.
camera, Mike?
I
Okay,
see it. I
that
see it. It's a
camera.
dome. It's
Yeah,
a dome.
yeah. This is facing the, of course, the front door, but it's angled towards the street, which means it's going to get a copy of what's going on in the street. And I'm going to take us off. I'm going to bring us back in. So that's the camera that I'm counting on, right? So that's
Yeah.
the town hall. It even says the police station. So that's an easy one to get. And that is something where law enforcement, I'm sure, have done this too, because I want to see the car. I want to see the car she's driving in. If there's anybody with her, simple as that.
Exactly. Exactly. Hopefully, some of that surveillance will capture it. We could get lucky. Maybe she stopped at the gas station. Who knows? So.
Exactly, right. And there's a whole bunch of other things that we can talk about. But all I know, Mike, is that the math ain't mathing, right? Is the math ain't mathing on this. To take
Yeah.
an hour and 20-minute trip to someplace else. Um, you know, I don't know. There's something afoot in regards to that, and I think it's definitely worth a deeper
Yeah.
dive.
Yeah. I think everyone is on the same page. That's why, Gizella covered. A lot of people are covering it. It's definitely suspicious for sure. Suspicious circumstances.
Right. And also too, right? The estimated time of death. That's going to be another important aspect of this, right? How long was the body there before it was discovered? And it doesn't tell us who discovered, but I'm assuming it's a parking lot that goes into the trail or whatever what you do over there. Somebody might have walked by and seen it and called the police, which uh, which brings us to another point. How that cell service over there must work pretty well if someone was able to call 911 from that location, because I doubt there are payphones that exist anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. There's always the potential too that the death didn't happen there. She could have been transported there. So that's something, we also have to look into. So
And once again, once the reason why I want to see those surveillance videos. But in that entire route, Mike, unless it's in Myrtle Beach, that entire route is just like in the middle of nowhere. It's all like trees and stuff like that. There are some, housing developments that come up, but a couple little commercial spots. But other than that, it pretty much looks like a highway, and it
yeah.
doesn't really look like conducive to getting video surveillance, except for that town of Fair Bluff.
Well,
Um,
it is an hour drive though, right? So
mhm.
there's a lot of video surveillance just getting to that location. So
Yeah, there's got to be
I would,
something.
yeah, has to be something. Yes.
And so Flynn Brown Finland says, "Do we have a link to the merchandise?" Yes, Flynn, it's in the show notes. There's a link to the merchandise, and then you could get the blue shirt, and then we can have triplets on here one day. Nobody would be able to tell us all apart. Me, Mike, and
Yeah,
you.
they have different colors too.
Yeah, they have
Uh,
pink. They have pink and gray and white, and I ordered a couple other shirts just because mine was in the wash. I couldn't wear it today, but yeah. So estimated time of death, Mike. Right? We're looking for the live mortis, the rigor mortis, you name it.
mhm.
Uh, what I didn't like, what I didn't like, and this is what I think other people don't like, is that the husband was willing to talk about his wife's past mental problems in public, right? Mentioning that she had done this maybe two times before, and in policing, we always had the saying, right? Once a suicide, always a suicide. That was basically it. If somebody had tried it, there's a good possibility they were going to try it again. And I think that's what he was kind of alluding to in that respect, and trying to lay out the framework about what exactly happened to her. And he didn't seem so broken up about it, and that's why I think people are just pissed off at this guy.
Didn't he go out on a date like a day or two later? He's out on a date,
And
laughing
he's
it up.
and he's wearing his wedding ring. He's wearing his wedding ring. I only have one word for her: run.
Well,
Not
she was
walk.
saying apparently she was saying it wasn't a date. She was just hanging out or something. But and
Well,
well, could not have been a date. But
I mean, yeah, okay, right. Yeah, I mean, it just reeks of terrible ideas, in a whole host of bad ideas for John Paul, George, and Ringo. This was a terrible idea.
yeah, Yeah, it's yeah. Again, he's trying to draw sympathy for himself. He's probably getting a lot of people probably like this guy. He probably has a lot of support in the community. And again, he could be completely innocent. He could be
Yeah,
completely innocent.
yeah.
And again, the investigation.
Being an a-hole doesn't make you a murderer. And that's the bottom line. And we've seen plenty of people we don't like. And I think that's what attracts a lot of people who watch true crime to cases like this, because the guy is such an a-hole that people just say, well, he's got to be responsible for something. And I say, well, listen, let's let the investigation do. Just like Mike and I kind of laid out here, this is what investigators are doing, is being done, and what will be done, right? I mean, that's how an investigation works. What was done, what's being done, and what needs to be done. And I
Yeah.
think that's exactly what's transpiring as we speak, because getting all this data, the cell phone records, the data from the car, it's not like a magic button like you see on television where they hit the button and everything pops up in the air. Sometimes these things can take a few days or maybe even a few weeks to get this data, and then you have to cull through it all.
Yep. The gun information, if the gun was recovered, whose gun was it? They're going to analyze the gun for any kind of
Yep.
fingerprints, DNA, anything.
And
Yeah,
you're dealing with two
it's
different jurisdictions. You're dealing
yep.
with two different jurisdictions, and you're also going to be dealing with the state crime labs, because I doubt these little small town police departments have their own labs. So you're going to be dealing with state crime labs. You're going to be dealing with their timetable, and and all the other cases that they have for the states. So yeah, people need to be patient, and I think we're going to find out the answers either way sooner rather than later. I just think people need to be patient.
And again, the only hiccup is if the police don't do their due diligence and process the crime scene, which is what we're seeing now with Karen Reed.
Oh, yeah. Well,
But
we're going to get into
we'll
that in a
see.
minute.
Yeah, hopefully it's being processed properly. Hopefully they have good investigators on the scene and they've recovered any kind of evidence that they can from the scene.
Yeah, that's the one thing, Mike, that we don't know anything about. How was the crime scene handled? We don't know anything about that yet. And unfortunately, if you are not, it's not drilled in your head to treat every death as if it's suspicious until proven otherwise, mistakes can happen because you just get that, whatever was it called, confirmation bias, right? If you think it's a suicide, it's a suicide, and that's a dangerous thing. So there has to be a complete set of photographs. Treat this as listen. I mean, I show up on that scene. Somebody shot in the car. I don't care if the weapon is there or not. To me, I'm thinking homicide until everything else proves it, right? Is she right-handed? Is she left-handed? Where's the wound? What about angle of trajectory? We haven't heard. And here's the other thing, Mike, that I want to hear that I don't think anybody's really spoken about, and they might have because I haven't watched every video. Gunshot residue tests. I want to see the gunshot residue tests on her hands, on her clothing,
Yeah,
on her. If it happened in the face, I want to know all of that because, Mike, as you and I know, women using a firearm is really rare. Women using a firearm and shooting themselves in the head, extremely rare.
very true. Very true. Most people, when they unalive themselves, they don't want to shoot themselves anywhere in their face, So, yeah, right there is very suspicious. So,
Yes. Oh, and Gizela has entered the room. Gizela, I don't know if you saw it, but your link to your shows is in the show notes, and we told everybody to go there after our show because where you did a great job breaking all that stuff down. So we're not going to get into all of that because you've already done it. But yes, Mike, right? So it's a really rare occurrence. We know that through statistics, there's about 40 something thousand people a year that do this to themselves. Overwhelmingly men, overwhelmingly use a violent method. Women tend not to. Women tend to try this more often, but don't succeed because they use a much lesser violent method of doing so. So
accurate.
when when you see this, that to me is another red flag. And I had asked even I was actually in Gizla's chat room and I said, was there any talk of a note? Because that would be another red flag. Most people don't realize it, but less than 25% of all of these cases have a note. So if you see a note, you need to have one eyebrow up in the air for sure.
Yeah, I think we're going to have a pretty quick resolution, especially if there was a perpetrator on the scene, if he left the scene, if he drove with her. or if he drove her there. So yeah, there's going to be a pretty quick resolution to this, I believe.
Yeah, the park opens up at 7 a.m. And from what I saw on the video there from the map, it looks like there's a gate. So that might not be open. So I think we're going to see that it's going to happen between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. because that's the time that it happens. So did it happen late and they didn't see it? Right? Did they do is there a park ranger that goes around and does a round and didn't see any
Mm.
cars? I mean, all that time of death is going to be extremely important in this because there's only two ways, like Mike said. You drive up there with somebody. She drove up there by herself. Actually, and the third way is she did a meetup. She met somebody there
Hmm.
to discuss something, and then things went terribly wrong. That's the other scenario that you can think of. But John Paul, George, and Ringo says that he was going to take a few days off, a week. I don't know, which was another strange thing. And if you Google his church, it says temporarily closed. So he's not open for business, uh, during this whole investigation. And apparently, the family has basically banned him from coming anywhere near the services. They had a memorial service yesterday that Gisela covered. You can go take a look at that and watch her coverage of it. And anything else, Mike, that I might have missed on the Mica Miller case?
Yeah, he shut down services because he's probably being interviewed, right? He's probably going to have to come down to the police station and be interviewed. So they're going to look at his history. So they're going to look at his devices, personal devices, to see if there was any conversations with the victim. So um,
And allegedly, he got a hold of her social media page, and he had, this is why back, and like basically blocked her out of her own social media stuff. So there's a lot of crazy stuff that we're dealing with that we see in DV cases. And she put out a video, and Gisela showed it about how basically, women were calling her up about advice for DV cases.
mm,
So yeah, there's a lot to not like here. I just hope that the investigators are doing their due diligence. I think they are. I like this Damian uh, McLean sheriff so far. And North
mhm,
Carolina, it's North Carolina's case. It's not South Carolina's case. So,
mhm.
folks, that's what we're going to be focusing on. What's happening up there? Um, who did the autopsy? What does the autopsy reveal? And of course, the toxicology report, which could take weeks to come back.
It'd be interesting to see his Google searches. That seems to be a popular theme currently. So that's something they should definitely look into.
Yep. Internet records, cell phone records, and video surveillance, Mike. I say it all the time. The three forensic horsemen. Take a look at all those. And also now we might have to add this, into the, well, it's part of the cell phone records, but the cell towers, right? Who's pigging off when it's happening. And this is Rochella just posted the National DV hotline. Thank you, Rochella. There it is. I'm going to keep that up there. Yeah, no, listen, Mike, we know that it has DV is a scourge on our society. It always has been, and it always will be. If you're just joining us now, a little more than halfway through this edition of Roll Call, welcome. I am with retired Detective Michael Alcazar, and we do our roll call shows now. We're doing them pretty frequently, but they usually start around 8 a.m. And we're just covering basically two cases today. We just talked about the Mica Miller case, so if you missed it, please like and subscribe and share the page. It helps us out a lot. And also, we are Mercurial, new member. Thank you, Mercurial, for joining the channel. I appreciate that. And Mike, we are now going to shift into another very contentious case.
Hmm.
Karen Reed. All right, Karen Reed. Sinead says, don't forget the story time, Mike. All right, we won't, Sinead. You can remind us. Mike's jokes, Mandy's in there. Mike's jokes. Hey, Mandy, good to see you. So, Karen Reed, I'll start off, Mike. Week one, the defense gets the win, as far as I'm concerned. 1-0 defense. What's your take? Do you agree, disagree?
Yeah, I agree. Defense did a good job preparation wise, good job doing background checks on the witnesses, good job challenging statements and recollections. It's really, really top notch. Very well prepared, very professional, very aggressive, good at bringing information to the jury first, which looks bad, right? Because now it looks like the prosecution wasn't prepared or was didn't want to bring it up. I like the defense has said, boom, put it right there. I think the prosecution kind of like missed the boat on that because now they're explaining or backtracking instead of hitting it head forward. So
Yeah, Raul just defense 1, state 0. Yeah, we agree with that for sure. So this week is going to be, as far as I'm concerned, a pivotal week, Mike, for the prosecutor, because I'm telling you, if he can't get this thing moving, and if I were him, I would have told everybody, you're coming to the office this weekend. Nobody's going home. Nobody's going to anything, because Mike, trial prep has either been awful or non-existent.
I agree. I agree. This guy, the defense has to have like a super team. Just finding out like social media history on the witnesses, like what's her name, Caitlin McLaughlin, and linking her to be a friend of one of the Alberts family members. That's just great work. I wonder if the prosecution was taken by surprise by that.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, how come the prosecution doesn't know this? Like, how could they not? How could you put somebody on the stand, Mike, and not know what they're going to say? I don't get it. Is even that, I think it was Sarif who said, when they asked him, when the defense asked him, did you talk to anybody before this court case? And he said no. And he even said, you didn't talk to the prosecutor before coming to trial? No. Like, what? I have never been not prepped by a district attorney going to court before you go to trial, ever.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah. And the defense and the prosecution, right? They have to share all that information with each other, right? So it's not like it should have been a surprise. He should have known, like, oh, he has information on social media. He's got photographs, which I guess was not submitted. Or maybe did he just drop that bomb on them live, or did the prosecution know about the social media photographs of McLaughlin on the beach with one of the Alberts? Again, didn't seem like they were too prepared for it.
No, and the thing is, the questioning actually lined them up, and I want to talk about this. I don't recall, or I do not recall phrase. We, meaning NYPD, trained that out of detectives decades ago. Don't say I don't recall. Am I correct on that one, Mike? Am I remembering that one correctly?
Sure.
And the reason was because it doesn't sound good. First of all, I don't recall. Second of all, you just either you remember or you don't remember. And the other thing is, I have a feeling that eventually the defense has, because they've been setting these witnesses up. Well, specific line of questions, like when we were on court TV, and I knew exactly where they were headed with that. Right? They're setting these witnesses up. When they say I don't recall, eventually they're going to force one of these people to recall, and it's going to get ugly, because they're going to come up with the right question, and that they're not going to be able to answer it without undoing their I don't recall bit. I mean, to me, it's been an overuse of the entire phrase, and I hear it way too often. And specifically, and you're talking about, you're charging somebody with a homicide, and just about every one of your witnesses are saying, I don't recall, like half the stuff. And then you didn't document it on top of that.
Right. Someone corrected me. She wasn't a friend. She was an acquaintance of one of the Alberts. They went to high school together and apparently hung out at the beach. She just happened to be there. That's what they're saying. You are correct, ma'am or sir.
Yeah, but here's the problem with that. The prosecutor should have been prepared for that and said, come out in front, right? I haven't seen one of these witnesses yet, Mike, come out front with anything that could be detrimental to their testimony, right? And that's basically prosecution 101. If there's something in the case file or something happened, or you have an acquaintance, let's get it out there and saying, yes, this individual who's, I went to high school with them. Right? Get out in front of it, and that's what the prep is all about. What do you think about that?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I mean, that's your job. And Mandy brings up a good point. A lot of the stuff that we saw on TV, apparently the jury didn't see because they were on a break. So that works for the prosecution. He got a little bit of help there.
Well, I mean, listen, the firemen and the EMT workers, with the whole, I heard, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him. Nobody's documenting that. There is body cam that we don't hear that. I mean, oh my God.
When I
I
was
don't know whether,
watching McLaughlin testify to EMT, I thought she was really good. I don't know if anyone else thought that. I thought she was a better witness than the other witnesses prior. I see she was challenging him on how he was saying things about what she said. She was a little bit more contentious. She wasn't willing to just let him put words in her mouth, which to me signals that she's being truthful. I think some people don't think she is, but I thought she was being. I got the impression she was being truthful. And again, the prosecution didn't do a good job of challenging the line of questioning. Like I remember she was badgered about did you go to that house? Do you know who lives in that house? And she says no. And then he goes, did you know the guy Albert, did you know he's a police officer? She kept saying no, and he just kept asking her the same thing, and there's no objection or anything until maybe the fifth question. I said, "What, Lally? What are you waiting for?"
He's napping. He's napping. But yeah, Scott says the medics made too many basic mistakes, even with the patient assessment. Yeah, I agree. And I think more than one, correct me if I'm wrong, either somebody in the chat or Mike, more than one of the EMTs or firemen were asking questions of Karen Reed about what happened. Am I right about that?
Yes.
It's like, what are we doing here? What's going on? One person asked the questions. You have different people asking different questions. First of all, that's bad for during a stressful situation because you can't serve two masters. Simple as that, right? You have an event on where somebody is either dying or dead, and you're badgering somebody with questions about what happened. So first of all, one person should be asking those questions. Why are the firemen? Why is the cops? And then why is the EMT, right? So just, this is like a big learning situation here because I think it's at least two firefighters or EMTs are asking what transpired because they're trying to give the care, right? I understand that. So they're trying to diagnose the patient to see what they need to do or what they don't need to. I understand that, but not two of them, right? The person who's doing the work, the EMT person, that's the one that should be asking the questions and nobody else.
Yeah, we all know that should be the game plan, but in a situation like that where there's a lot of things going on, a lot of confusion, a lot of people are allowed on the crime scene. I'm sure a lot they just it's just very traumatic and I'm sure people are asking lots of questions. Crafty Chris made a good point. She said that McLaughlin eventually caved in. I don't know if she caved in or if she gave in to the semantics, because again, the defense is doing such a good job, right? Asking, did your testimony evolve? Which is not necessarily a negative thing, but when he says, did your response evolve? He's basically saying you're giving a different answer. He's basically saying, did you lie? And at first she caught that and she says, I don't think so. But then she eventually did say, okay, yes, my response was different.
But that's another problem that we see. There's nothing written on the reports. They're going into the grand jury saying one thing. They're coming into court saying, I don't recall. And it's just lying or telling the truth or whatever. It gives a bad impression. And I'm just waiting for the... Go ahead.
Yeah, I think, again, the defense is doing a good job challenging the recall. Now they're probably questioning themselves after being on the stand. Did I hear that? Or did I hear somebody else say it? Or did another EMT told me? And again, the defense is really really doing a good job. Lawyers are really good at pressuring people to respond because you are on the stand, right? You are sworn in. There is the threat of you going to jail if you lie. So it's a lot of pressure. If anyone has ever been on the stand, I don't know if anybody's ever been a witness or a law enforcement or just testified. It certainly is a lot of pressure. And if you're not strong with your conviction and recollection, like me, you could fold under pressure, just like Joe Pesci would say.
Well, here, I mean, Mandy brings out a point, says every single witness is going to be like this, in my opinion. I agree with you. So far, we've seen, I think, 9 or 10, I think, people interviewed, and everybody's using the same phrase. Sinead said he pinned her down to yes or no questions, which is a tactic often used by the defense. If you notice, they start off with these kind of open-ended questions, tell me a story, and then all of a sudden they switch to the yes and no answers. And then you also have to watch for, and I've seen this already with this defense, they do the rapid fire yes or no questions. And they talk about it's important to be 100% accurate, right? It's important to make sure you document everything, right? And then boom, they hit you with another question that requires them to answer not in a yes or no, and it causes that pause. And the juror is sitting there like, what? Right? It's a tactic used. It makes the witness look unprepared and bad. And it's something that you need to, if you're testifying in court and you start getting those lines of questions, slow the questions down. Take your time answering them, even if it's a yes or no question, because it's a setup. It's as simple as that.
Well, if a lawyer was telling me it's a yes or no question, and I think most people would agree, you don't have to answer yes or no. If you don't believe it's a yes or no question and you think there's more to it and it's a little complicated, I would say that. It's not as simple as a yes or no, sir. I would challenge him on that. Don't be intimidated. If you're telling the truth and you believe that this is the truth, this is your recollection, stick to your guns. And I think the defense is really doing a good job of making people feel uncomfortable and complying with his line of questioning. So remember that, folks. If you're ever on trial and you're on the stand, remember that. No one can make you say anything. It's your testimony.
Well, and I was just want to finish up that last statement I was making too, in respect that when you slow the defense down, it gives the prosecutor a chance to object. If you're answering these rapid fire questions, Mike, if I was on the stand and this guy was doing this to me and he was asking questions that I knew there should be objected, I would be giving him the side eye. I'd be looking at the prosecutor going like, and I would make a face like, oh, what are we doing here?
And sadly, I don't think that's the job of the witness, right? Because they want, I see it. I saw it in McLaughlin. I saw it in the different witnesses. They want to answer the question. They want to answer. Maybe not Saraf. Saraf wanted out of there and he wanted to be a D&D as quick as possible, Dunkin' Donuts. But I thought McLaughlin was such a good witness. I really did. I don't know if you guys, if our viewers did. I thought she was so good. I'm sorry, John, made you laugh. But yeah, I thought she was when I watched her, I thought she was the best witness. But again, without the prosecution protecting the line of questioning, she eventually did give in and answered the way the defense did. So again, kudos to the defense. Good job,
Yeah, so now we're starting week 2. This is going to get, because remember, we haven't even, the 800-pound gorilla in the room in this case, as far as I'm concerned, is the testimony of Trooper Proctor. I mean, that one is going to be a fireworks show and a half.
Mandy asked if I have terrible taste in women. I have fantastic taste in women, Mandy. In fact, just by looking at your comments, I love you, Mandy. I can tell you're a straight shooter, and that's who I like. I love straight shooters.
Mike, yeah, but maybe might not be a bad judge of women, but maybe they are with Mike, right? So who knows? It could be the other way around. So
I'm really good at. I'm a really good judge of people too. And I think Joe's the same way. I think that's why me and Joe are friends. We're like, how a dog just knows everything. You might not pick up on it, but the dogs do. That's me. I believe that's me and Joe. people I've always told me that I'm a really good judge of character, like split second. So and coupled with my professional experience and just watching the testimony and interviewing people. Me and Joel have interviewed millions of people, and I just think that she was being truthful, and I feel like she was being pressured. McLaughlin, I'm talking about. Watch it again, folks. Watch it again and see it from my point of view. I think she was left defenseless, and I thought she was doing a good job until the defense was just doing a better job.
Yeah, Mandy Titan says she's a good witness to how to handle a hostile witness. She doubled down. Yeah, she was a little feisty. She was a little feisty, and I think that could have been the frustration of the prosecutor not.
I think it's because I believe it's because she's telling the truth. If you're lying or if you're incompetent like Saraf, you're not going to be that invested in your testimony. You're not going to get that emotional. Saraf, that guy had no emotion. That guy was like, oh yeah, okay. That guy was no good.
Feisty witness, yes, Kay. Millions? Yeah, we must be tired. Yes, not millions. Well, there's 9 million people in New York City. We haven't talked to everybody. Lots of people we've interviewed and talked to for sure. Fuzzy asked about any body cameras on police. There was only one, I think, at the crime scene that they have, and that's part of the problem that we're dealing with in regards to into that. I mean, we saw the dash cam, not a body cam, a dash cam from the police car, and then that's why the sounds were so muffled at the crime scene at that site. Here's something, and I put out a short on this, Mike. The jurors went to the crime scene.
I saw, yeah.
To do this, and it really ticked me off because I know I'm jumping the gun, but right away I go to Idaho with this, saying, well, you guys destroyed your crime scene. Here we have the situation where we have a single person. We don't know if they've been hit by a car, beat up, attacked by raccoons. We don't have any idea what's going on. And they have the crime scene because it's somebody's private house, and they go there to the scene because there's nothing like going to the scene and looking at it for yourself as a juror thing. And you look at what they did in Idaho, and you just kind of scratch your head going, boy, this is going to come back and haunt them.
I agree, 100%. That's always been a big part of a trial, especially a homicide. You go back to the scene, you check out the surroundings, you get a feel for the atmosphere, you get you get an idea of where the vehicle was, where the victim was, where he landed, right? Nothing will replace that. Photographs don't do that. You have to be in the scene to actually experience it. And you're right. For the Idaho case, it's a shame. That'll never happen. And I think that's just going to make it tougher for the prosecution.
Yep. Scott says Canton just voted to get them body cams, probably after this whole debacle, I think. Listen, if the prosecution doesn't make a 180 this week, this case is over as far as I'm concerned. The jury it's going to be too far gone, and you're looking at not a mistrial, but you're looking at a hung jury, and you're looking at or an acquittal. I mean, at that point, he needs to step up his game this week. If not, the entire case is in trouble. That's just my opinion, folks. Like it or not, and I'm not taking sides. I'm looking at this from a strictly procedural point of view, based on the testimony that we've seen from the first responders so far. I don't like what I've heard, and it's for the lack of preparation. You can send me the hate mail later, but it is what it is.
We could be wrong too, right? We could be not seeing it the way the jury's seeing it. I think Michaela just said it. It could be the jury could be seeing the defense as kind of like a bully and pressuring the witnesses to say, who knows what the jury they're saying to each other. It's going to be interesting. And that is the part of the jury, right? There is going to be a stronger personality within that jury that's going to probably redirect everybody or guide everybody, and that's always the case.
Yep. Let's put it this way. I have no faith that the prosecutor weighed in on picking who his jurors were going to be at this point.
Holy crap! This hour went fast. I thought we had a half hour left.
No, we're at story time because Sinead reminded us that was 7 minutes. That was 2 minutes ago. So we're down to like the last 5 minutes. So Mike, we will turn it over to story time. Let's make it a police story because a couple of people or one person was upset that you told a personal story. God forbid. Meanwhile, they watched 56 minutes of the show and they said stick to the program, right?
I saw that comment. I've never seen a comment before, and I think it was Mandy that defended us. Or somebody defended us. Like, we went through the whole hour, and then you give a little tidbit of a little entertainment, a little levity. Yeah, I forgot who said it. Somebody's like, "I'm glad you weren't in the chat to rain on our parade," or something like that.
Well, and Manny brought up this: is why wasn't she detained if she said she hit him? They had to get her into the hospital on a Section 12 in order to take her the blood alcohol. In my opinion, yeah, there's a lot of questions that and that hasn't even been asked yet. Like, why didn't you arrest her at the scene if she said it? If she said this, but William May said the thin blue line is strong here. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm still not seeing conspiracy. Sorry, I'm seeing incompetence right now. And incompetence does not equate to a conspiracy. And
they also said that they responded. One of the witnesses said that one of the EMTs said they responded for a psych call, apparently for Karen Reed, which I guess might be good for the defense if they say that she was so distraught and not in the right mind that she might have just been babbling. I see that working for the defense. Again, a really good job by the defense.
It was Simi Sharp that brought that.
Yes.
She said, I said that about the troll.
Thank you so much. Simi, please keep smacking around these people. I don't see Brad today.
All right, Mike, the show is all yours.
Okay, story time. I mean, there's so many, right? I'm going through my mental Rolodex. But I'm going to talk about a vehicle accident that has nothing to do with the crimes that we're talking about. But we're on patrol. This is a way to get people off of it. Yeah, I'm on patrol. I'm working with a new guy because my partner, I think I've talked about in the past, he was injured, so he was on desk duty. So I had to work with this other guy. And we're doing midnights, and the sergeant was looking to scratch our book, meaning he had to sign our memo books because we're driving around throughout the tour. He didn't get a chance to get a hold of us. One of the other sectors said, I think the sergeant is looking for you. This is before cell phone, folks. So I had to get out, get on a payphone. We had a SPIN number. It's a code for a free phone call to call anybody using the NYPD SPIN number. So I had to call the TS, which is the telephone switchboard operator. And I just wanted to find out. I said, hey, I'm on Nostrand and Eastern Parkway if the sergeant is looking for me. And the cop on the TS said, yeah, he's looking for you, Mike. He's been looking for you for a little bit. And I look down Eastern Parkway and I see a patrol vehicle coming. And I go, oh, I think I see the douchebag now. So I hang up. And I see the police car pulling up, right? I wasn't a fan of this sergeant. So I see the sergeant. Apparently. I see the police vehicle pulling up and approaching the intersection of Eastern Parkway and Nostrand Avenue. Now, I don't know who took the light. Somebody took the light. I'm going to assume it's the cop. Boom, they hit each other. Boom. The civilian car got hit so hard by the police car. First of all, the police car ended up on the sidewalk like it was parked there. And I've seen this. You know, when you have a traumatic event, you see something in slow motion. I see the civilian car on its headlights spinning like a top on the middle of the intersection. I see the driver of the civilian vehicle ejected, and he lands on his butt. And he's like, and I see all this car spinning. He's crab crawling away from his vehicle. And then finally the vehicle lands. And I'm checking on the civilian. Now, this is not a good cop story. This is how much of a bonehead the guy I was working with, the other police officer I was working with. I'm not going to name him. But as this is happening, I'm getting on the radio because I see a police car got injured. People might be injured in the police vehicle. A civilian might be hurt. I'm talking to the radio, to Central, asking for a bus, an ambulance. 780, we need an ambulance forthwith. Nostrand and Eastern. As I'm saying this numbskull behind me, my partner that day, finally gets out of the car, by the way, and he's running towards me. He goes, now I worked in the 7-7 precinct. This was at the 7-7 precinct. He's going, tell him it happened on the 7-1 side. Tell him it happened on the 7-1 side. Now I'll let you explain, Joe, why he's saying that.
Yeah, well, if it happens at a borderline, it's whoever started. That's where who's got to write the reports. And when you're dealing from a supervisor, which I was, there is when you have a vehicle accident, boy, there's a ton of paperwork that you have to do. You have to do everything in quadruplicates. You have to do 49s. You have to do something. I don't remember there was a accident city involved. There's like a million reports you got to do, and of course, you're going to rely on some of the cops to help you do some of those paperwork because it's just so much for you as a supervisor to do. So Rob McMullen had asked, was it a phone booth? Yeah. So we had this SPIN number. I think I still remember it. But anyway, it was a special number that you could pick up the payphone, you dial the number, and then you put in the passcode, and then it would call right to the desk of the precinct that you were assigned to. So you had, at the time, there were only 75 precincts where Mike and I were doing this. I think there's 77 now. And each one had its own code. The same 4-digit code was the same, but the phone number was different, and you would get right to it. And yes, you had to use a payphone, and there was payphones everywhere at the time. But I used to pick them up with like salad tongs, Mike. I used to pick up those phones like this, and I would hold it like three feet from my ear because you didn't want to put these things on your face because some of the things that people would do to these phones that you just didn't. Oh my God, it was almost as if you say to yourself, I'll just drive to the station house and ask because I just didn't want to just gross me out, some of those phones.
Buttercup asked why we call it a bus. I don't know where that came from. I guess it's for transporting people in it, but we just always call it a bus.
I just think because it's a 1-syllable word. Ambulance, right? So 3 things over the radio instead of just bus, right? The shorter, the better. Probably. And remember, those trucks back then were huge. It was like, they were like the mini buses. They looked like a minibus. And I think that's where it came from. I don't know.
It was about the size of like the Bearcat that they used in Colombia. If you guys saw that, those ambulances were humongous.
Yeah, they were humongous. And I think that's where the bus thing came from. But yeah, that was just a little bit of a little history note there. 6973, I think the number was. But
yeah, which is NYPD, I believe. NYPD on the keypad. So so I just ignored the guy because he's saying, "Tell me what happened on the 7-1 side." I already saw the guy crab crawl. He looked good. I quickly checked on the cops. Again, they're parked on the sidewalk. It's our guy. It's not the sergeant. It was 2 cops unrelated to the boss. So I just check up on them. And I remember talk about gallows humor, right? The cop hit his head on the windshield on the passenger side. I come up to him and go, "Dude, are you okay? Are you okay?" He goes, Mike, I hit my head. Am I okay? Am I okay? He goes, and I look at him and go, "Yeah, you're still ugly." Because he was okay. Yeah. So I broke his balls.
Yeah, there it is. All right. Well, that was, we had over 240 people watching this live, Mike. Yeah, pretty great. We're over an hour and 2 minutes already. Listen, we're going to close this edition of Roll Call. We're going to probably do one at the end of the week. We'll give 5 more days or 4 more days of Karen Reed, and then we can get together our notes and put some of this stuff together. So probably Friday, if you're available, Mike, we'll do this again. For roll call, and we'll do that. And hopefully there's an update on this Mica Miller case. And like I said before, there is a link to Gisela's true crime episode where she covers the Mica Miller. If you really want to get into the down and dirty part of it, go over there to that link and watch the show. And Shaming of Jay has a show today. I think he's doing the Chad Daybell, so check that out. So lots of good things going on this Monday. You guys have a great day. And we'll see you soon. Mike, hang out 1 second. And we'll,
bye, Bib.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, Mandy. Bye, Pokemon. Bye, Sarah. I'm looking at the chat so I can say that. Bye, Peter. Bye, Cindy.
Blackwater. Thank you.